All right, welcome back to the 2024 Calhoun County High School Football Media Day presented by the Quarterback Club of Calhoun County. My name is Danny Shears. It's a pleasure to serve as one of the board members, and we continue this tradition of spotlighting our high school football teams here in Calhoun County. We now would like to welcome to the Cooper Chevrolet stage at the 2024 High School Football Media Day, the Oxford Yellow Jackets. Oxford competes in 6A Region 6. The head coach of the Yellow Jackets is Coach Sam Adams. Today, Coach Adams has brought with him senior quarterback Mason Mims and senior linebacker / tight end Jason Tapley. Coach Adams, we welcome you, and we'll start with your opening comments, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, and glad to bring Mason and it's James Tapley actually with me here also. That's all right. We're coming off of a strong year last year at 9-3, and really have a very veteran team coming back. We have a lot of guys that have a lot of returners that have starting experience. There's 7 to 8 of those guys on both sides of the ball, depending on how you look at it. Defensively, Keenan Britt will be a 4-year starter returning. James Tapley will be a 4-year starter. He started in different positions over 4 years. Caleb Tenner is a returning 4-year starter at D-line. P.J. Watkins is a returner at defensive line as well. Jais Fleming, Des Whitson, Sed Twyman, all of those guys will be multi-year likely starters for us this year. Offensively, it's very, very similar. That's a veteran group coming back. We have Mason Mims here beside me. It'll be his 3rd year as a starting quarterback for us, and 3 returning starters on the offensive line. Rashad Cunningham, who's been in that left tackle spot for us for 4 years now, and Jaden Young and Markevion Conley are 2 of the other offensive linemen that are returners. Nick Richardson will be a returner at a receiver spot. This will be his 3rd year to start for us, and has been very, very productive over the last 2. DK Wilson has started games over each of the last 4 years at the running back, kind of slot receiver, hybrid sort of role for us. And then we have a couple other guys that have started for us in the past, and Jalen Taylor and Caleb Wynn that'll be returning with us this year as well. We do have a challenging schedule that's ahead of us. That's region and non-region are both equally challenging. Non-region this year will be opening up the season at Central High School in Carrollton, Alabama. They're a 4A school in Georgia that was 12-1 last year in a third round appearance. Other non-region games are against Moody, 5A team that was in the 3rd round last year, Helena, who made the 2nd round in 6A, and then Florence, who was made a 1st round playoff appearance in 7A. And that's to go alongside our region schedule, which is kind of the who's who of teams that have played in state championship games in 6A football across the last 7 years. Shades Valley, Pinson Valley, Mountain Brook, Pell City, Clay Chalkville, the defending state champion, and Huffman. There's been a state finalist out of our region every year since 2017, and a team out of our region has won the state championship 6 out of the last 7 times. So, I think we do have a very talented, a very veteran group of kids that we get the opportunity to coach every day. They've kind of been through a lot in 4 years. They've had some years where we've had more success than others, and I think they've continued to improve steadily. With that being said, we know that there's a big road ahead of us as well. Just because, and the way I worded that at the beginning, we have guys that are returning with starting experience. We believe in competition every single day in our program. That doesn't necessarily mean that those guys are going to be the starters this year. There's somebody trying to take their spot, and we feel like if we have continued to develop the way that we think we have over the off season, that we have a chance to put together a special year this year.
We will open it up to questions.
My question is for Mason and James. What does it mean to you guys that Coach Adams has selected y'all to come speak with us today, and how does it feel to be representing Oxford?
It's a great pleasure. I'm trying to take this leadership role, and it just gives me like a sense of like that he trusts me and wants me to lead my team.
Yeah, it's great. I'm glad I earned his trust over these last 3 years, and I'm just thankful to be here alongside these 2.
Along those lines of leadership and trust, Coach, they just use those words. You've been at this a while now. You go through cycles where you've got more senior-laden teams than you do other years. A year like this year, with the experience you've got coming back, do you coach it any different? Do you let sometimes the players kind of coach themselves when it comes to maybe discipline or off-the-field stuff, or how does that work different in years like this year?
We don't coach it any different year in and year out. You know, one of the points that we've made with this particular group of guys over the last several months is just because we have a lot of returning starters doesn't necessarily mean we're going to automatically be a better team. You know, each of those guys is challenged with being a better version of themselves than they were last year if we want to, you know, have a little different result at the end of the year, you know. But it is comforting to know that these guys fully understand not just what we do on a day in, day out basis. They understand why we do it. They know what it looks like now when it's done the right way. And they understand and are not afraid to correct other guys on the team when it's not done the right way. Now that does make my job a little bit easier. You know, we don't want to overlook anything in this process and take anything for granted. And you know, we try to stomp out every molehill that we could ever come across. If you don't do that, you'll have a yard full of molehills, right? So I think that's a big thing that this group has really made strides in, is being able to police each other.
That's the point I was trying to get at. It makes it a little bit easier from that aspect than having a younger team.
Yes.
So we've got another question in the back. Joe Medley.
Sam, can you just speak to Mason's development since last year and what you expect of him as a third-year starter?
Yeah, so you know, Mason will be his third year in the system here, and he's been super productive each of the first two. You know, one of his strong points from the very beginning has just been decision making, understanding of space on the football field, and understanding how to distribute the ball, and understanding how to anticipate throws before he makes the decision, I guess is the way to say it. And those things that he was really strong at 2 years ago have continued. His strengths have gotten stronger. And I think, you know, if you were kind of picking nits from a couple of years ago, you would say, well, you know, maybe he's not physically as strong as some of the other guys out there, and you know, maybe he doesn't have the velocity on his throws as some of the guys out there. Now it doesn't take long to realize that those things that could have been perceived as weaknesses a few years ago are definitely in the past. I mean, I think now, I mean, you're probably, 25, 30 pounds heavier than you were 2 years ago. And just the velocity of his throws has gotten better and better each year. And he keeps that, you know, that nice compact stroke, and it just gets out of his hand quick, you know. And I think the biggest comfort that I have with a guy like Mason in the game is that when I call the play, I think he has a great understanding of why we're calling what we do. And I feel like I know where the ball is going to go once the ball is snapped, or sometimes before the ball is snapped. I think we really we see the game in a very similar way, which is a great comfort to me.
Another question right here. With a quarterback like Mason, you know, from the outside looking in, you think you throw it, you know, 85% of the time, but you know, and I know, you got to be balanced to keep the defense, you know, on their heels. Talk a little bit about the running game and who we can look for in the backfield for Oxford this year.
Sure. In the backfield, you know, we have three guys that we really feel good about. One, DK Wilson, I mentioned earlier, has been a starter, at least part-time starter over the last 4 years. So you've seen him out there a lot. He can do a lot of things and has a huge skill set. He can play receiver inside or outside. He can protect. He's good in the screen game. He's obviously good handing the ball to him as well. So, you know, he's kind of Swiss Army knife, the kind of guys that we have. And then we have Caleb Wynn that'll be back with us this year. Caleb is a different style of back than DK is. Caleb is a thicker. He's closer to 200 pounds, whereas DK is right around that, you know, 175, 180 kind of range. But Caleb kind of brings the physical presence back there. And then we have a young guy that'll be a freshman this year that's definitely in the mix that we have big plans for in Kamari English. And he's another guy that's very similar to DK in the skill set that he can play receiver, he can play running back, he can go over and play some defensive back as well, return kicks, return punts. So, you know, those three guys are going to be huge for us in the run and pass game. You know, I think that was one of the things last year. You know, we'll definitely miss Jake Thomas, who's a 1,000-yard rusher, but him and DK both also had 400 to 500 yards receiving apiece. And we do definitely, I mean, we like to throw the football and we like to run the football. And I think one of the things that Mason does extremely well is there's a lot of times where balls get thrown that were actually run calls. We're pretty deep into the RPO, run pass option type game. And but we do definitely have to run the football effectively in order for our offense to work the way that it needs to.
Question right here.
Sam, the region on paper at least looks like an Oxford Clay Chalkville race. What are the differences between the two teams?
So, you kind of look at, I can base this off of last year. Last year was a 14-point game. Okay, now we fell behind early in the game and then caught ourselves up at the end. Now there was kind of a misconception in that game that we kind of scored our touchdowns in mop-up duty. They didn't pull a starter out of the game. Okay, it was still ones-on-ones at the end, and we were able to cut it to a game. They cut it to a 14-point game. We felt like in that particular game there was probably 3 crucial errors that they were able to capitalize on and swing the game in their favor. We had a block punt in there. We had a backwards pass that they scored on, and they threw one deep ball over our head. So any game where there's 2 roughly comparably talented teams competing, there's 4 to 5 plays that are going to decide that game. And last year, they made all those plays within the game. As far as if you're looking at what's different between their kids and our kids and their program and our program, there's no difference. There's no difference. Our kids get out there and compete. We've got high-level kids just like they do. Now, last year, they did have a super talented team. I mean, there's 3 Under Armour All-Americans on the team, in addition to 2 other SEC defenders on the team that were not chosen for the All-American team. So I know this, they've lost those guys. They're not coming back. That by no means does that mean that they're going to fall off a cliff and stop being a good football team, a good football program, because that's not true. But do I think we can stand in there and go toe-to-toe with them again this year? Yes, absolutely. Hopefully with the experience of being in those kind of games in the past, with the roster that we have this year, we can swing some of those 3, 4, 5 play games into our favor.
Question right here for James and Mason. Last year at this time, we had just opened the doors on a new indoor facility. You got to be a part of that for a full year now. What's it been like to have an off season, a winter to go through, knowing any time, any day of the week, you could go in there, work on passing, routes, whatever. Talk a little bit about having that tremendous asset there at Oxford High School.
Yeah, it's one of the best indoor facilities in the state. There's no doubt about that. It's great to have an athletic program that cares about us like that, and where we can just go in there and put in work whenever we want. I think we earned that because the teams before us, the guys before us. So, it's just great to have that.
I mean, there's definitely nothing like it in the state. I mean, we got stuff that D1 football teams have, and it's just getting to work out in that every day is awesome. I mean, there's nothing like it.
Mason, you talked about the guys before you. Does it humble you a little bit to know that the rich history that Oxford had in the last, we like to think the modern era, the last, 20 or 30 years, but it even goes further than that. But the guys that have played, that have gone on to college and NFL, so many of them, you can't count them on one hand here in the last 20 years. They didn't have that indoor facility, and you're coming behind them at your time in your life. Talk about those guys that played before you that maybe we all looked up to when you were younger, James.
I mean, they come back, and they come like J. Rock Swain, and like a couple of them like KJ. They come back, and they're jealous about it. They wish they had that, and there's definitely it's just. I mean, it's good to have. I mean, they wish they had it.
And they do come back and support the program, right, Mason?
Yes, sir, they do.
I've seen them at camps and things like that.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's great to have that supporting cast around you, where they'll come back around, and they'll always be Yellow Jackets for life. So it's great to have that support.
Yes, sir. Next question right here, Jim.
Sam, of course, Mason made our Player of the Year finalist list last year. We've got our watch list out for this year. he's on it, but not only is he on it, Keenan's on it as well, and I think that's the first time we've ever had two players from the school on the watch list at the start of the season. You not only have talent, you have elite talent. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we do have, we got a lot of really good football players, you know, and I would argue, I mean, I'm super proud of both those guys for being on that watch list, and they're obviously deservingly so. In my opinion, we probably have three or four more guys that could end up on that list by the end of the year. You know, that people that just are not necessarily household names around this part of the state right now, but they will be soon enough. You know, I think we do have, you know, a lot of really good players. The thing I'm more proud of than the fact they're good players is all those names that you just mentioned, in addition to a whole bunch of others, are great human beings. You know, they're great ambassadors of our program and Oxford High School and the city of Oxford. You know, I think we have a lot of kids that you know, have grown up over these last few years as part of our program. I would like to think that our program does a good job in just kind of fostering that, helping build great young men and great football players along the way. Now, I'm not going to take credit for everything that they've done. I mean, they're really good football players before they started our program. They've just gotten better and better. But you know, we don't hide the fact that we got really good players, and you know, I'm proud of all of them.
Time for one final question. Yes, sir, Mark.
Mason, you've got your commitment out of the way. What's the best part of having that already completed?
I mean, I just get to focus on the season. That's the best part. And yeah, I'm locked in Louisville. Love the coaching staff there. Love the city. Love the program. And yeah, it's just great to be able to focus on football and not recruitment and all that kind of stuff.
Good question. Well, we've got at the end of our time with Oxford High School. Coach, if you'll give us your final thoughts.
Well, I mean, we're super excited for the year, and you know, it's always a fun time and when you go watch Oxford High School football in the fall, and I just look forward to being out in the stadium and seeing our home crowd there and just feeling the support from our city.
Well, good luck to the Oxford Yellow Jackets as they compete in 6A Region 6, and football is right around the corner. Coming up next on the stage.